everybody. Welcome to Act Three. I am so glad that you tuned in to CHLY 101.7 FM today. I hope that your day has been spectacular so far and that you have been enjoying this beautiful summer weather. Now, listen, I have one of my favorite people in the Zoom booth with me today. His name is Dean Tholner Veljasic. He is with Little Events and, of course, the mastermind behind the incredible Glitter 2026. Welcome to the program, Dean. How are you, my dear?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on the program, Kathy. Full disclosure, I'm a little tired today. I was a judge on Nanaimo Idol last night. Yeah,
Yes,
well, I didn't get home till midnight, and I got to tell you, it's the first time I haven't got home after midnight for about 2 decades.
that's
The
hilarious.
older we get, the earlier we get up and the earlier we go to bed, right?
So true.
So either way, it was a spectacular evening hosted by Indie Entertainment. Yona Christensen, who's such a powerhouse in this community, did an amazing job. And I think I was a judge, so I think we picked a really good winner. And the winner's going to perform at Glitter, so we're super excited about that.
Well, this is to me great news. And Yona is a great friend to the show as well. And her talent is beyond compare. And, I didn't realize that she has been doing Nanaimo Idol for nearly a decade. She's
Yeah.
had a lot of really great people on the program. And I'm so glad that you got to be a judge last night.
Well, funny thing though is this is my first year being a judge, but Yona said to me, every year, usually after the first or second night, she can kind of tell who's in the forefront.
Yeah.
We had no idea who was going to win last night. I have to tell you, the talent was so incredible. It was a really hard job to pick Nanaimo's Idol this year.
Well, I'm really glad that you were one of the judges because I know that you know a thing or two about talent.
Yes, a little bit.
And Yona is going to be one of our guests. I mean, full disclosure on my side, of course, I'm one of the team members that is helping bring in Glitter 2026 to our community. And all of the money that is raised from this fantastic event is going to go to Foundry. But for those of our listeners who really aren't familiar with Glitter and what we're planning on doing and why we're doing it, why don't we give them a little bit of an understanding of, first of all, what is Glitter 2026 and why are we doing this?
So, Glitter 2026 is a fundraiser that will be happening on September 12th at the Vancouver Island Conference Center. Why we're doing glitter is because we need to save lives. It's
Yes.
that simple, Kathy.
Yeah.
Um, at this point in Nanaimo's history, we have one child psychologist for all youth that are struggling in peril, suicidal, depressed, a plethora of reasons that these young individuals are not well. I would like to do a shout out to Nanaimo Regional General Hospital. They do an incredible job when parents bring the kids to the hospital to get them on their feet. But regretfully, these healthcare workers have to get these kids on their feet and then shake the parent's hand and tell them it's a 2-year wait to see a psychiatrist because we have one psychiatrist.
Yeah.
Well, how do you tell a child who is struggling to wait 2 years? Completely not great, not acceptable. But this has nothing to do with the hospital. The hospital's doing a great job. So, Foundry is going to open up in Nanaimo, and there are foundries all across British Columbia. And foundries are open door clinics for the ages of 12 to 24 for all youth to get the support they need for mental health. Not just mental health, addiction, pregnancy, safety, wellness. There's a whole bunch of reasons. It is being hosted by Kwame Lalem at the Nanaimo Foundry. But to be clear, this clinic is open for all kids in the community, not just First Nations kids. And we just thought, you know what? Our organization has been raising funds for mental health and addiction for decades. You might be familiar with some of our past platforms. And we just rallied together and thought this is something we can really sink our teeth into here and we can really help. So we've decided to sink into a 5-year commitment and try to get these doors open.
Well, I think that people don't really understand that the resources for young people, for youth, are really limited province-wide. When funding dollars are distributed from whether it's the municipality, the province, the federal government, they're usually really clawed back when it comes to youth programs. And really, not by any fault of theirs, but there is just so much need for so many things in all of our communities. But it seems that the most vulnerable often get hit first. And so, when we talk about Foundry and we know that it's a provincial initiative, we are really hoping to bring together a full service, wraparound kind of organization. And I've had the privilege of seeing a few of them working, right? We've got a couple of them on the island already. Um, and so, where will our foundry be? And tell us a little bit, if you can, about the partnership between Kwantlen Lanum, Nanaimo First Nations, Foundry, and all of us.
Well, every foundry has to be hosted by somebody,
Yes.
and they put in a bid. Kwame Leyland put in a bid to host this, and it is going to be hosted by them. Fantastic. I am actually quite familiar with Foundry. When I found out Foundry was coming here, I went to Foundry Canada to talk to an individual that I knew because I had previously done some fundraising when I was working for what was it, the Lionsgate Hospital Foundation. Louise Campbell, who's amazing at that hospital foundation, said, "Look, Dean, I think this is something that you could really support. And because you're in a smaller town and you have this history of ginormous fundraising and
Yes.
raising a lot of funds and awareness, I think both parties could really benefit here." So that's how it came to fruition. It's going to be on Departure Bay Road, right behind Country Club Mall. There used to be this quaint little secondhand store, and it's going to be put in there. But the thing is that's important to remember, Kathy, is it's not just about getting the doors open. It's about sustaining, keeping the doors open, and continuing to get the funding for the next 5 years to provide the programs that are necessary. So this clinic really is about community and what the community needs. So it will offer, first and foremost, what the community wants it to offer, not what Quantum Layam or Foundry wants to offer.
Sure.
But in saying that, it's still a huge ask. You can imagine the funding that is necessary to get this clinic open, right? Astronomical.
Yeah.
So, and it'll take some time to get it on its feet. So when we did this, we decided we weren't going to jump in for 1 year. We'd commit for 5 years to try to get some really sustainable programming.
And I think that that's really great. It is a 5 year plan. It's not something that's going to, come in and go out right away. But we've also received a fair amount of support from the community. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the partners that we have with community to help open these doors?
So, first of all, I have to go back in history a little bit, right? Because I think there's some confusion and I think some things need to be clarified.
Okay.
So, originally, when I moved to Nanaimo with my husband, David, I had retired from fundraising after 2 decades of raising literally millions of dollars for mental health for the Lionsgate Hospital, St. Paul's Hospital, Canadian Mental Health Association. We had a really great reputation going. And one of the reasons why our events were so successful is it actually had nothing to do with us. I always call myself the Pied Piper. But what we do is we gather a tremendous amount of actors, dancers, singers, drag queens, musicians, supported by local retailers, fashion designers, hairdressers, makeup artists. We create these 2 hour shows. We invite guests to arrive. We'll talk about what the evening's going to look like for Glitter, I'm sure, on this event, or sorry, on this program. But the sustainability of this project is its uniqueness. You know, hundreds of people on stage, sustained by hundreds of people behind the stage. It's like that old shampoo commercial when you tell one friend, they tell another. So we always knew that we would get great momentum by engaging as many people as possible. The other thing, too, is that not all artists and people that are in the entertainment industry are at the place where they could write a check, but they can give with their hearts and their talent. And one
Totally.
of the most heartwarming things about the Shine platform, which was previously called Brilliant, which is now called Glitter, is that that night when I stand on stage and I look in the audience and I see all the tremendous amount of community members that have come out, so politicians, medical health support, clinicians, like all the different people that come together. And then we have all the people on stage that are performing and behind, and all the volunteers as well. It's crucial with all the volunteers. It brings tears to my eyes because I can see that an entire community has united and forged together in support of our at-risk youth.
So I was part of the first Shine that we put on here in Nanaimo, and it was a spectacular event with 700 people. It was entertainment beyond compare. We had incredible musicians, incredible dancers, and the fashion was phenomenal. And then there was a little bit of a shift right after that particular event. Now, that first one, if I'm not mistaken, I believe, Dean, please correct me if I'm mistaken, but once our hard costs were dealt with, we raised like $73,000 in that first year, which really is phenomenal for a first year in the community. And then there was a little bit of a dip. There was a change of hands, a change of partnership. Can we sort of talk a little bit about that? Because the changeover didn't go so well, did it?
So I'm going to refer to some notes because it actually got kind of scary and it was a little bit possibly could be legal. So to be clear, Volume Studio Limited was the original production or producers of Shine, and
Yeah,
it was established and operated as a volunteer-driven nonprofit initiative, and no member of the leadership team ever received compensation,
yeah, of
ever.
course. And it
After,
wasn't intended to either. It was
yeah,
all meant to
yeah,
be.
of course,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
And after stepping down as the executive director and assuming the role of the artistic director, I later resigned from Shine 2023 for several reasons, including a fundamental disagreement regarding the organization's direction. Specifically, it was the new artistic director intended to introduce paid compensation for leadership, which represented a departure from the nonprofit model under which the event had been promoted in public to sponsors and community members. Well, this put me in a really difficult place, right? Because here we have a lot of people that have jumped onto this platform that are assuming it's nonprofit 100%, and now it's going to move to proceeds. And to be clear, anyone who wants to run a nonprofit or to do a charity is certainly willing to take a percentage, but it was alarming to me the percentage that this was discussed, and so I sought legal advice. So I was told by our lawyers, to notify the sponsors and the partners and the community members once I stepped down, who I'd personally recruited, that I was no longer affiliated with the event and that its operating model had changed. I had to do this to ensure transparency and to avoid any potential misunderstanding or liability regarding representation previously made during my involvement. You can imagine someone like TD Bank who's writing a huge check to sponsor the event, and then they find out that actually partial proceeds are going to line the pockets of the producers. Now, again, that is legal and ethical to a certain percentage, but it's not okay if you haven't told those people.
yes.
So following my resignation, I was subjected to what I believe were false statements, bullying, threats, and attempted to damage my reputation. So it got, you know that,
I
you
do.
were involved in that, you were also part of that slander, and it got kind of scary. So I guess what I have to say is that before my resignation, several members of the leadership team, they'd also expressed concern of where the new direction was going by the artistic director. And it was sort of their concerns were inconsistent with youth and mental health and addiction fundraising. So sort of with this bullying, with the change in the platform, with money not really sure where it's going to be allocated, and also the disruption with the internal team, I just saw a fire that I didn't feel that I could line myself up with.
Yeah.
And then the dreaded. So there was a recorded conversation, and the new executive director had made a statement to me that they wanted to make the new Shine like the Cirque du Soleil of Canada. They were going to take it along the road and they were going to make it into this big platform. And at some point in this recorded conversation, I said, well, sure, if you want to bring it across Canada and make it Cirque du Soleil, clearly this is a full-time job for all of us, and there's going to be having to have some financial compensation. This individual sent an email to hundreds of people in the community and basically sliced that as if to say I wanted to take funds from the fundraiser that was happening that fall. So the whole thing kind of blew up, and I just think it was an unfortunate stain on the community. It didn't their project didn't come to fruition. I'm not really sure what happened. I understand there were some concerns being raised regarding allegation. So sorry, there was concerns about alleged financial matters, but I want people to understand that that company and the original Volume Studio company were not aligned, and none of our original team stayed on, and none of us were part of those alleged financial matters. So I think going back to the fact that we've worked for Canadian Mental Health Association and Lionsgate Hospital, we've worked for other like Positive Living Society, AIDS Vancouver, Foundation of Hope. We have an incredible reputation, and we've always been in line with the CRA and all the demands of how to run a charity. So it was very sad, it was scary, it was frightening to see a team of individuals trying to post false scripts and to make terrible allegations about us.
Yeah.
So we took 2 years off and we decided to back away from the whole thing. But again, I think our passion, our core group of people in this initiative, our passion's bigger than our worry. And we realized that there were still a lot of kids that needed support and that we needed to move on. And it was interesting because one of the sponsors from the original Shine, she worked for TD Bank, and she said to me one of the most powerful things she could have said, and it was a real light for me. And she said, Dean, your team's reputation is not based on what other people say. It's based on hard facts of your achievements. And I realized we have nothing to be afraid of here. We need to get back on our feet. We need to walk away from that. And oddly enough, I spent last year out in the streets of Nanaimo talking to every single person that was part of this drama and this conflict. Everyone understood that our team was earnest and that we were reliable and that we needed to move forward. And they're all behind us. So we have incredible talent. Like we've got Yona Christensen, Josh Holloway, Surreal, Boo Wah, Narissa Young, Laura Kelsey, Yona O'Connor as musicians. We have circus performers. We've got all the retailers on Commercial Drive supporting us. Tremendous amount of hairdressers and makeup artists. Tons of volunteers. We also have the support of the politicians, obviously Leonard Krog, Sheila Malcolmson. The city's excited and they can see that we're back and they're really wanting to support us.
And I think, because I don't want to belabor it too much, but I think it's really important to acknowledge that this is the first time that we have addressed this publicly, right? That,
Yes.
it has been a couple of years where the entire team at Little Events, who really, really were dedicated to raising money for community, that coming back together again, we knew that there may be some legacy of that negativity. And so as a result, we made some very conscious decisions, didn't we? And one of them being to change the branding and the name to reflect that rise of joy and that full motion to move ahead. And then it became glitter. So tell us a little bit, as if you don't mind, what was the motivation for you when because you've always created these wonderful names, Brilliant and Shine and Glitter, and what's the motivation behind these really empowering names?
Kathy, I'm not going to go through my whole story again, but I think I really know the power of community. You know that in the early 80s, I had a terrible health crisis. I was diagnosed HIV positive at quite a young age. Fought for my life for an extremely long period of time. And I remember watching community members march down the streets with ACT UP, and the lesbian community actually was very powerful during those days. They were the first group to stand up to support gay men that were not getting the support from their families or the hospitals. You
Yeah.
have to remember that St. Paul's Hospital was the first hospital to open their hearts and their doors. The Sisters of Providence said, regardless of these boys, their lifestyle, the substances they use, or however people judge them, these are people and they're part of our community and we have to support them. And in 2011, when they announced that the new HIV cocktail, the HAART cocktail therapy, meant that all individuals who were HIV positive would lead their life expectancy, I wanted to reach out and say, look, let's thank this hospital. So I started this small project called Brilliant, and we raised $100,000, same platform, actors, dancers, singers, drag queens, all that stuff. And we made $100,000. The next year we raised $300,000. The year after that, we raised 1.4 million, and it grew and grew. And so I realized that the power of community through the artistic community really had a lot to give, and they could actually raise a lot of funds and awareness. And also, I think the artistic community really, I don't want to say that chartered accountants don't have mental health issues. In every facet, people in our community may have mental health issues, but the artistic community seems to be more prevalent with it. And it seems to be more prevalent in certain industries. So I just feel that they have passion to give back, and I've watched that. And so the magic of community, or our slogan has always been community supporting community. And so here we are again. I'm watching this small town. Yet, well, it's not that small. It's doubled in
I was going
population.
to say,
When
we're
I
not
moved
a
here,
small town at all.
when I moved here, it was. But
Yeah, yeah.
this big engine that could is rallying together, and they're all uniting, and they're going to make a huge difference. It's great to see.
Well, and I think what's really spectacular about this project is the inclusivity of it all. It isn't just, for a certain population. It's for everyone and for all of us, which is really the message behind Foundry. It's that inclusion. It's like it doesn't matter where you come from as a youth. We will support you. We will open those doors. And I know firsthand from Sunamic First Nation and some work I've done with them through my other roles, that it is one of the many First Nation communities, including Kwantlen Lalem, that doesn't turn away anybody. They seem to understand at a root level that we're all in this together and that we all need to support each other. And when we wrap ourselves around with blankets, love, respect, honor, and kindness, we elevate the youth of our community into becoming who they are meant to be. And so I find that in itself to be really quite wonderful. We also have the support from, School District 69, right?
Yeah, of
They're
course.
all over
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about, how our education system has really stepped up and said, yes, we want to be part of this.
Well, for sure. I mean, statistically, everyone knows that kids are suffering right now. I think,
Yes, everywhere.
especially after COVID, the isolation, not a lot of socialization. But I also think, like I'm going to hold this up, right? This little tool here, the phone, is not working for youth because they're inundated with so much negativity, so much pressure to be perfect,
Yeah.
so much pressure to fit in, TikTok, Instagram. So I think kids struggle, and a lot of them are isolated and they don't know how to cope. And I think from what I've heard through the school system, a lot of kids need mental health support, and this clinic is going to be able to help that 100%.
And it's also becoming one of the highest population of unhoused, right, in our
Yes.
community or youth. So it's really important. And unfortunately, it seems as though kids as well who happen to belong to the queer community are even more subject to having some issues, right?
Sadly, up
With
to
support.
40%, sadly, up to
Yeah,
40% of the kids on the streets in
yeah,
Canada are LGBTQ2AR.
yeah,
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 for sure.
yeah.
Which is sad to me because when I look at Statistics Canada and I see that 85% of the Canadian population is so supportive of the LGBTQ community, I mean, I wake up every day feeling very proud to be Canadian. I'm married. I've been married for 21 years. I've been able to sustain my life with my husband without judgment or pain or fear. I turn on the news and I see other countries and how horrible things are for the LGBTQ community. But yet I'm still shocked at the amount of young kids that choose to leave their homes because it's a better situation than to stay in their homes and not being able to feel their authentic selves. So
Yeah.
one of the things I love about the Nanaimo Ladysmith School District, circling back to that, is how supportive they are of
Yeah.
all people in the school system. There's rainbow crosswalks, there's, LGBTQ alliances. They also have, when we were raising money for Shine, you remember there was the Flow program, which was
Yeah.
alternative learning. There was the Take a Hike program. So they understand the need to address an individual in the school and their needs and how to build success and trajectory moving forward as they graduate. And I just think our school system in Nanaimo is excellent.
I'm really honored by the kids that come out of the school system. You may remember that I've been in education for 35 years, and I know firsthand what support looks like to young people. And it doesn't look the same to each individual. Each have their own way of learning and being, and growing and fulfilling what their dreams are. That's the magic of education is that we're able to actually put people in areas where they can excel where they want to, at least in Canada anyway. And as you said, that not all countries are like that. And so it's really quite spectacular. And it's not just the school district that are our community champions. There's other community champions here as well. Can you share a little bit about the community champions that we have supporting this particular program of Glitter 2026 and the community as a whole?
Well, I can circle back to Yona Christensen again. I mean, she
Yeah.
is so incredible. And she also has a history of supporting at-risk youth. You know, she has in the past been a facilitator to support through music.
Mhm.
She's an incredible individual. I actually think all the talent that is headlining this show are headlining this show because of their passion for at-risk youth. You know, it's not an easy ask to ask professional entry. Oh, Nico Rhodes too, right?
Yes,
He's in the show.
Nico.
And it's not an easy ask to ask people that get paid an extraordinary amount of money to perform on a regular basis in front of people at the Port Theatre to step up and perform for free. But
Yes.
without hesitation, every single person is doing that. And to me, that just shows that there isn't an individual that's leading this. Again, it's an entire community who sees it. I mean, you only have to walk out your front door and go downtown to see these kids that really need our support.
Well, and I also really invite the community to really recognize what a great culture you bring to our community. You
Oh,
bring
thank you.
that culture of inclusivity. You bring that culture of let's work together. Your ask is to save lives, and that's very different than asking for money. It's you know anybody who knows you knows that you spend so much of your time elevating others. You're doing it right now on this program. Right? It is just by nature who you are. And I think our kids really need that in our culture, in our society right now. They need leaders like you who stand up and say, hey, wait a second, you're important, you matter. Let's find a way to make sure that the rest of the community understands the situation and let's entertain them in the process, with an understanding. And what I also know for sure is that these fantastic performers, Nico and Yona and Laura, they're all writing music specific to this community, specific to the needs of the youth. And I think that that in itself is pretty darn phenomenal.
Well, firstly, I mean, thank you very much, Kathy. That's very kind of you to say that. But I think it's kind of circumstance. Like, you have to remember, I'm 63 years old. When I grew up in Canada at 63 years old, it was illegal to be gay. You
Yes.
could go to prison for 11 years. It was considered a mental illness. I know firsthand the struggles of what it's been like to watch LGBTQ get human rights.
Yeah.
And it comes slowly, and it's been difficult. I also know what it was like to grow up as a child in the school system as a gay man and being subject to judgment and bullying. It wasn't easy, let me tell you. So, this passion that I have for trying to allow all youth to be authentic, and in the process of being authentic, to receive the mental health support that every single person deserves, especially people who are marginalized. I don't know that it's anything but just an inherent passion and a belief that this is a quality issue and we have to do this. I think all of us that are lucky enough to be born in Canada as, white people that have had the privilege to have this navigation through these decades. I feel really lucky, but I also have a little bit of guilt. I feel like, wait a minute here, like I'm looking at the Indigenous youth, I'm looking at the different backgrounds of people that have been judged and the LGBT community, and I just think there needs to be a little bit more equity. Yeah.
Well, there's no doubt that, that what you're saying is true. And unfortunately, you made a reference to the telephone, the cyberbullying that's going on for youth, whether they are queer, whether they're First Nation, for young people in general, has been debilitating for so many. And when kids have nowhere to go or nowhere to feel accepted, things can go off the rails really, really quickly. There's a high rate of people who die by suicide as a result of this kind of bullying. There's been headlines across pages of major newspapers across the country for decades of, talking about how the signs were there, but no one stepped up to see the signs. And that's, I think, why it's so important that we have a place for young people to go, right?
Oh, for
They
sure.
need a place to get wraparound help, wraparound support, whether they're experiencing something like this or whether or not they just want to be involved in something in community where they can see something of themselves. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know as a young boy, I remember grade nine was really difficult for me. I left a Catholic school, I went into the public school system, and it sort of became apparent that I was gay. I mean, I always joke when I open my mouth, the Macy's parade falls out. So, and so clearly I was the new kid and I was gay and I was filled with shame. Shame is a terrible thing, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Shame, guilt, remorse. Like I call them the three evil sisters of Catholicism, and they can be really deadly for someone who is not feeling supported. And I
Yeah.
remember through grade nine, all I wanted to do was die. I just didn't want to go to school. I was terrified
Yeah.
every day, but I never told my parents. And I know for a fact, Kathy, that if there would have been a foundry for me to go to during that time, I think the trajectory of my life would have been completely different.
Yeah.
But I also want to point out that if anyone who's listening to this show, please, it takes one individual, literally one person in an LGBTQ's life that could save their life. If you're an aunt or you're a neighbor or you're a cousin and you see that a child is in the LGBTQ and is not getting the support at home you feel that there's a risk for their wellness or their life, please step in, befriend them, make them feel comfortable, accept them. That could actually save their lives.
I just going to take a pause to that for a little, not only for our station identification, but also for a breath, right? I think that people really need to take a moment to hear what you just said. It only takes one person to save a life.
Yes.
Yeah. Unfortunately, when I was growing up, I was severely bullied as well, and I'm not part of the queer community. And there are a lot of kids that are not part of the queer community that are bullied for any number of reasons. It could be socioeconomic. It could be because they're living in a single parent home. It could be because they are going to the food bank. It could be because they're living in any number of different circumstances. And so I do want to be clear as I say that, that I think that there's one child in every single classroom, one child in every single classroom across the country that is experiencing bullying at a minimum. There is one child in every single classroom that is going to the food bank to survive. There's one child in every three classrooms that is a part of domestic violence. This is a big conversation. It isn't just about, any particular segment of our population, but all of us as a community that we need to come together as people and help save lives. And it only takes one.
Mhm.
With that, I'm just going to take a quick second. If you've just tuned in, thank you for doing so. We are always, always so grateful when you turn your station to 101.7 FM, CHLY 101.7 FM radio. But we're also pretty grateful when you turn into Rogers Television for Act Three. We have been putting on shows now for several years. Actually, we're in season 6 coming up this fall. We got 2 more episodes coming up for season 5. So please check in and join us on Shaw. You can also find us on your YouTube station. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hype, 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 share, share, share. Let's get the message out because we always try to bring great guests from our community to our community. So we appreciate it when you do tune in. And if you really want to take us on the go, don't forget you can tune into iHeartRadio or Spotify and hear our programs there. So thank you so much for always tuning into Act 3 and to CHLY 101.7 FM. We sure do appreciate it. I'm in the studio, the Zoom booth. I am so happy to be with my friend Dean. I cannot tell you how much I love this man and what he's done for our community and what he continues to do every single day. It is a privilege for me to work alongside him and the great team of Little Events. We have some incredible people, and honestly, I can't wait till Glitter 2026. I'm trying to decide what I'm going to wear. What are you wearing? Let's find out right now, Dean, what is going to be on your agenda. What we have to get the buzz out there. I mean, this is a fashionistic thing. I want to start moving us over from, the background and going into the meat and potatoes of this incredible event, the fashion, the music, the dance, the celebration of all of it, and the wardrobe. Tell us what you're wearing.
So if you think I'm telling you what I'm wearing to glitter, you're out of your mind. So I'm not
I
telling you.
tried. I really did
No,
try.
I'm not telling you. But I do want to circle back to the team. So
Yes.
Little Events started with Jeremy Milieu, who is
Yes.
an incredible advocate in our
Oh, yeah.
community, right? He used to work for ABI. He is a force. He's so creative. He's so passionate, and he brings a tremendous amount of wealth and information. And the guy just knows, he's got a way with words, and he just knows how to get what he needs to get done and really brings it home to the team with great success.
Yeah.
The other individual we have is Ernest von Rosen, who was actually the principal photographer for the original Shines in Vancouver, because Shine started in Vancouver decades ago, right?
Yes.
And he and
Absolutely.
his partner Brian moved to Nanaimo, and he reached out to me and said, "What are you up to? Let's create something." This guy is super creative. So when you go on the Shine website, all the marketing is Ernest von Rosen. He does all the graphics, he does all the beauty that is glitter. So great. But I also want to point and right back to you, Kathy, because you're in communications. And the success of any event without successful communications is not successful. You have an incredible history in this community. I can't go out the door without people saying, "Oh, I know Kathy Holmes." But it is such an honor to have you on our team as well. And I know that it is hugely advantageous and a huge part of our success. So thank you.
Well, it's my pleasure. And I try to align myself with the cool kids on the block, and you guys cool kids on the block. Jeremy, is also part of our Act 3 program, as you were part of our Act 3 program for a long time. Ernest is the only one of our team who hasn't been. We're going to have to change that up and bring him aboard at some level or
Yeah.
another for sure. And of course, you have your own program too. So let's do a quick hype for Upfront. That show is amazing.
Yeah, so I have a half an hour talk show on Rogers. It's called Upfront. And basically, I really wanted to have my own program to interview societies, charities, individuals that were doing outstanding work in the community, and sometimes even trying to help community members. So people that have initiatives or societies that are struggling and that they need the community support. It's been wonderful. I feel very privileged and honored to have that platform. And I'm kind of packing the show right now with talent from Glitter. So if you get a chance,
Yay.
tune in to Rogers Upfront because a lot of the performers are going to be on for the next couple months.
Well, and I think that people need to see these performers, but I do think the best way for them to do that is to go buy a ticket. So, what I'd like to do is tell everybody to go grab yourself a piece of paper and a pen right now, because in a few minutes, not just right away, but in a few minutes, we're going to give you the details on how you can get your tickets to the social event of this season. And while Dean is not going to tell you what he's going to wear, I'm not either, but I can tell you it will be fabulous. And it is an opportunity for you to express yourself. So I really want to bring that back to the title of this part of our conversation, right? Is the expressing of yourself. Because the performers that we have, people that are coming to this stage, they're expressing themselves in their own way. Tell us a little bit about some of the highlights. We talked about Yona.
Yeah. So I think we should talk about the experience of Glitter. So it's
Exactly.
September 12th, Vancouver Island Conference Center. The doors open at 6:30. There's a cocktail reception from 6:30 to 7:30. A really wonderful artist. Her name's Heidi Bunting. She was a ballerina and a modern dancer. She stepped forward to take over the auction. So at the last Shine, we had a live auction, but it sort of chewed up a lot of time. And I think people really just wanted to go to the event to see the fun and the glamour and the stage presentation. So this year, we're launching the art auction online. So whether you want to go to the event, you can still bid on our auction pieces, or when you get a ticket, you're instantly hooked up and you can start bidding right up to intermission. And that's another facet of this amazing platform that I'm just shocked at. Like the amount of artists that are coming forward that are tremendous artists that are donating these paintings in honor of our at-risk youth. It's actually quite overwhelming to see, right?
Yeah,
Um,
and these paintings, by the way, are not, they're not they're not inexpensive paintings. These paintings are seen in art galleries and in big areas. Like this is these some of these artists are very well renowned. Is that right?
Well, there's a plethora of artists. There are some art that is not overly expensive, but for example, Grant Lear donated a piece yesterday when I was at the Vancouver Island Sculpting Studio. He's very well known. His art can go up to 20, 30, $40,000,
Yeah.
right? So
Amazing.
there's incredible talent that is coming forward for this. So I digress. So either way, you arrive at 6:30 to 7:30 for a cocktail reception. 7:30 to quarter to 8, we're going to obviously bless the Snohomic territory, and we're going to have a speech, one speech from Kwamut Lalem, and then we're going to move into the show. One thing I learned early on is that people are tired of buying tickets to galas, sitting there eating rubber chicken, expected to write checks, and
Totally.
sort of looking at their watches like, what time do I going to get out of here? That's the exact opposite of glitter. This show is about 2 hours in length with a 20-minute intermission, and it is a steamroller of fashion, drag, talent, art. It is non-stop fun. And we try to put some moments into it where we actually engage the audience so that people don't feel they're not part of it. We also encourage the audience to cheer these people on. I mean, these people are working for 7 months on their individual platforms to try to entertain the guests. And then afterwards, we have a cocktail reception. People are welcome to dance, chat, meet the artists. But generally, around 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, we'll be finished. But it's a fun, full evening, and it'll be so exciting.
Yeah, and I
The
just really want to say that it's like a show. Like this is like if you were going to the Port Theater, there are some differences, and we'll talk about those differences in a minute. But if you're going to the Port Theater and you're seeing Nico Rhodes, you know you're going to see powerhouse entertainment. That's the caliber of what these shows are. This is a very big production with all
Well,
kinds
this is
of.
this is Vegas.
This is Vegas.
We go into the convention center on Friday and we bring in the stage, the lighting, the sound, the spotlights, the technicians, the rigs. Meanwhile, we're setting up auctions, we're blowing up balloons for Pop and Wind. Like it's a ginormous production. And
Yes.
then on Saturday morning, we arrive at 6 in the morning. We run rehearsals all day till 5 o'clock. Then we shut down. We all quickly get changed and we open the doors, the grand ballroom to glitter, and we run the show until midnight. And then the next day we tear it all down. This is, the Vancouver Island Conference Center is a conference center. It is not the Port Theater. So we bring in a Vegas style show so that people are getting world-class entertainment. But,
And
it's
along with the world-class entertainment that people are getting, because I think that's really important as a big part of it, there is so many moving pieces. There's so many balls that are moving around at the same time. And I know that we have matured in our entertainment because the first year that we did it, and of course we were not involved after that, we're
uh,
coming back bigger and better. And the people that went to our first Shine, when it was called Shine, are still talking about it because it
yeah.
was really so spectacular. But we learned from it. We learned that at that time it was a little bit long. We
A
had a
little long. It
little,
was 8 hours
it was
long.
like yeah, I mean, it was a party and it was
And I
fantastic.
take full responsibility because I wanted everyone in the community to be part of it. So the original Shine had an hour auction. We had a 3 hour show. It went on way too long. And one of the biggest things that people said to me afterwards is, A, get rid of the auction. We only want a couple hours here. We're driving to Parksville, Qualicum. We're all over the island coming to see the show. And second of all, it was quaint to see all the kids, but the quote that I remember the most was, "I didn't pay to come to Shine to watch my friends' kids dance."
Yeah,
So I want everyone to understand that this show is 19 plus. It is very adult
thank you.
entertainment. You
Yeah.
have to be 19 to attend. And going back to what to wear, I have to tell you, every day I wake up in my inbox, the biggest question is, Dean, what am I supposed to wear to glitter? So
Right?
all I can tell people is sparkle it up, wear glitter. I want the whole room to just be sparkly and shiny all night.
And for people who know me, they know I love sequins.
Yeah.
Sequins, there is never not a good time.
Well, Kathy, I think we should break the news that you're actually the host that evening.
I am the
And
co-host.
yes, you're co-host with Kevin Wagner from Rogers. Yes.
So
Yeah.
Kevin is part of Act Three, part
Yeah.
of Rogers, of course. And everybody loves Kevin because Kevin is the sweetest, loveliest, kindest person on the planet. And
Mhm.
this is particularly important to him as well because he has two kids who are going to be, well, I guess they almost already are, really. I've known Kevin for so long, they're almost adults themselves, but his kids are grown, right? And are growing. And so he's very much excited to do this. It'll be his first time doing something of this magnitude. And so I look forward to co-hosting with Kevin for sure. He is
Mhm.
so spectacular. Everybody loves Kevin.
Yeah, oh, he's a delight. And he's so professional. Yeah.
He's so professional. He's so professional and so sweet.
Yeah.
And so, thank you for that. And I do intend to shine it up. I do intend to glitter it up. I have to stop calling it shine because shine was the past. We are not
Yeah.
shine.
Yeah.
We have evolved. We are now glitter.
Yeah, it was a community general consensus. Everybody agreed that it was time after what had transpired with Shine, it was time to rebrand.
Yeah.
Now, what does the audience get? Okay, so you arrive, but you also not only are you getting this experience and a cocktail party and an after reception, you see there are single seats. The seats are $125. There's 10 people at a table, so a lot of corporate are buying tables instead of single seats. But don't be afraid to buy a single seat. I'm a big believer that same-like individuals are attracted. What is the expression? Water seeks its own level. The room's going to be filled with marvelous, wonderful, heartfelt people. You'll be sitting with people. It'll be a great chance to meet new people. There's also charcuterie that comes to the table and also a complimentary glass of wine. And then there's a lot of areas that I believe are important for fundraising. And I think everyone should be able to contribute on their own terms. We're not expecting everybody to donate money in large amounts, but every little bit is going to help sustain Foundry. So we have what's called Pop and Win Balloon. So if you buy a balloon for $20, your gift in that balloon is equivalent double your money, so $40. There'll be 50-50. There'll also be like I said, the online painting auction. We also have a couple of surprise live auction items that are kind of thrown into the fun of the show. And then, of course, there'll be donation QR codes if people want to donate directly. But we really want to make it affordable. So $125 for a 2-hour show, charcuterie board, some wine, and all this fun and entertainment. I don't know. I think that's pretty reasonable. But we wanted to keep it reasonable so that if people wanted to make some fun donational activities and be able to give back, that they'd be able to do so on their own terms.
And I think that it's important to let people know that effective the 1st of July, that auction goes live, right? Or is
Mhm.
it?
Yeah.
Yes. So we're going to, take the time that it needs to have taken to try to raise as much money as we can for these tickets. How do people get tickets?
They go on the website, right? It's glitterevents.com. That's simple. What I love about the website, and again, big shout out to Ernest Von Rosen. He's done an incredible, the website is
Yeah.
stunning. But not only is it stunning, it's also very heartfelt because he's been very careful to recognize everybody. So all the different tabs of the contributors and the volunteers, and we're only a quarter way through. Like every day on social media, I am posting more and more individuals that are stepping up to this platform to support at-risk youth. And it's so great to be able to go onto the website and see the retailers, see the fashion designers, see the singers, and actually be able to get a taste of what's going to happen that night.
I I think it's important that we share who some of our sponsors are right now. And I think that here's the thing about sponsorship. It's not just that, companies are sponsoring us. What's
Mhm.
important about company sponsors is when they sponsor us, more money, more of the dollars actually goes into the hands of Foundry. And that's what we're doing this for. So if the hard costs are covered, if the cost of the convention center is covered, if the cost of the food is covered, all of those things are dealt with, then it means more dollars go into the hands of the Foundry, right?
Of course, it's our responsibility to cover the hard costs,
Yes.
right? And I mean, we know that it's going to cost a certain amount of money to bring in this stage and lighting. Big shout out to the conference center. Okay,
Yes.
so I just said we have the conference center for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I'm not going to say the amount they're charging us, but they're not even barely charging us. They are part of our community. They see right outside their front doors on Commercial Drive the need to have an event like this. They're so gracious and they've worked with us incredibly. Allison Thomason and Jonathan Modal, the two of them one's Jonathan's technical, Allison is convention lead. They have been outstanding in supporting this, and they were also amazing in the first Shine. So we're so proud to have them as one of our sponsors as well. We have Hello Ferry, a sponsor.
Terrific.
HelloJet is a sponsor. Coast Battiston Hotel is a sponsor. Country Grocer, Fairwinds, Active Earth, Nanaimo Magazine, Print 3, and on and on and on. And I've actually solidified about 4 other sponsors that I haven't had time to put on the website yet, and they haven't signed their contracts. but sponsors are rolling in. We realized when we launched our sponsorship package, admittedly, we were a bit lofty. And we realized with the climate that's out there, I mean, people are concerned. They're having to pay bills, put food on their tables. Their
Yeah.
kids are going to school. It's expensive to live these days. So we wanted to build a sponsorship levels that were attainable. And I thought to myself, I don't want to sit back and wait for a $30,000 sponsor and be proud to show one sponsor. I'd rather count 10 $1,000 sponsors
Yeah.
and be able to, again, all inclusive. So more and more people are going on the website and saying, actually, I can sponsor this. I can get a couple free tickets and I'm actually getting good benefits and recognitions. So it's showing that our company does support this initiative for Foundry, Qualm Lamb, and at-risk youth, and that we're able to incorporate all these wonderful businesses that are stepping up.
I think that it's really important to shout that out because, the people who are, the Hello Fairies and the Hella Jets and the Save on Foods and the country grocers and those people, maybe I'm not sorry, Save on Foods, I don't know if they contribute or not, so forgive my fumble. But whoever it is that's popping the dollars in this way, they are actually saying, we believe in this project. We believe in
Mhm.
the Foundry. We believe in the city of Nanaimo. We believe in the idea that we can make a difference in a young person's life, and we want
100%.
to shout out and do that. And so I think that I was actually really, really pleased to see that the Hospital Foundation was very supportive of us as well, right?
Well, I mean, here's the thing about the hospital foundation. I mean, it's not an easy thing for a
Oh,
healthcare professional to have to, I go circling back, but to tell a parent that their child has to wait 2 years. They understand that when Foundry's open, that it's going to take some of the pressure off of this situation for them.
yeah.
And they're really proud to be joining, right? You know, I have to say, when I went to Foundry, I went to Kwamut and I said, look, this is what we'd like to do. You have to imagine a 63-year-old white gay man who is not part of the Indigenous community. It was a big ask for them to
Huge.
believe in us. And again, I go back to our trajectory of raising millions of dollars and working with reputable foundations that they were very keen to work with us. But it was very important for our entire team to sit down with the First Nations community and say, look, we need to learn here too. Please feel free to educate us, reprimand us, keep us in line. We want to represent your community the best way we can, and we want to make sure that we don't make any mistakes. And I cannot tell you how humbling and how heartwarming this experience has been. In fact, 2 weeks ago, I went and helped out with a pride float and with the youth council from Kwamut because they wanted to do a glitter fundraiser, a glitter float with recognition for Foundry in the clinic opening. And we were the first ones on the parade. We marched all through downtown and ended up at the festival. The reception was so overwhelming and it was such a heartwarming experience. I had tears in my eyes because I'm walking down the street, looking at our community, cheering on the First Nations community and their support for our at-risk youth. I grew up in the 60s and 70s. I grew up in Winnipeg. The representation and the message about Indigenous culture was anything but positive. And
1,000%.
I'm so proud of Nanaimo, and I'm so proud of our city council, and I'm proud of all our sponsors coming on board to support Indigenous and this foundry. I think it's incredible.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I got to tell you, I grew up during the 60s scoop. You and I are very close in age. I will, keep mine a little bit more secretive than yours just because it's a woman's priority to do so. But we're dang close in age. And the reality is you're quite right. For the queer community, for the First Nation community, for any culture that has historically been marginalized. I'm so proud of Nanaimo for stepping up and showing how far we've come because it certainly wasn't like this a few years back. Even 10 years ago, it wasn't, what it's becoming now. And, I hear people still that talk about, First Nation communities throughout the province and that there are still some, curiosities around it. And here on Vancouver Island, we see the relationships so intertwined with each other. People are really, really very accepting and working towards reconciliation in a million different ways, and one footstep at a time, right? Like a moment at a time.
I don't, Kathy, the news is so toxic. And
It is.
what I've realized in today's culture is that, like I said, 85% of the population are fantastic. And I love the community. I love being part of this community. I think everyone in Nanaimo is really great. Regretfully, the other, what, 12%, they make the most noise. And when
Yeah.
they make the most noise, they cause the most friction, which causes a lot of banter. But I always urge people, don't pay attention to that burning fire. Don't put butane on an already lit fire. The community is trying its best to support everybody, whether it is Indigenous or at risk or LGBTQ or people with different abilities. We have tremendous businesses. I always go back to Coco Cafe for an example,
Oh,
right? I
love
love Coco Cafe.
Cafe.
I love what they're doing, right? They're working with people
Mhm.
with different abilities, and what they're doing for the community is so amazing. And I see this time and time again. And I've recently joined the chamber, which I was one of the best things I've ever done in my entire life because I'm meeting all these incredible business owners. And every single business owner that is in part of the chamber, including the chamber itself, really solidifies and also reinforces the fact that we live in a community of beautiful, loving people who want the best for all of us.
A
And
thousand
yeah,
percent.
it's
Thousand
great.
percent.
Yeah.
And we're coming into the season where we're celebrating that. We're celebrating the phenomenalness of Nanaimo and
Mhm.
Vancouver Island as a whole. But Nanaimo, I moved here 15 years ago. It feels like it was last week. I tell you, I don't know where the time has gone. But I was greeted by the Chamber of Commerce. I was welcomed by the Chamber of Commerce. Phenomenal results and support from them. I remember being told when I first moved here, if you think you're going to get started in in Nanaimo and put your shingle on the door and that you would be all set up, you are sadly mistaken because it's who you know in this town. And I was like,
Yeah.
no way, I'll put my shingle on the door. That'll be fine, right? And in actual fact, it was the chamber that really helped me grow and help build. And so I'm forever grateful. And Nanaimo and Voyager magazines, right? Like Judy Stefan is one of the coolest chicks on the planet, arguably one of my closest friends. But I know what she's done in the community as well with Nanaimo and Voyager magazine. I know what Nico Rhodes has done in bringing the choirs together, with Hullabaloo, which was on recently, and just blew the, top off. He's
It
going
was a great show. Oh my
what
God.
a
So
show,
good.
right? Incredible, right? Yeah, Yona, like our community is filled with just nothing but one blessing after another.
Uh-huh.
We are coming very close to the end of our program, so there's a couple things I have to do. The first thing I have to do is get you to tell us once again, how do people get tickets for this show? How do people donate if they're not able to go to the show? How do they get to the auction? Give us the hows.
Okay, so everything is on glitterevents.com. 100%. We also have Facebook Glitter, we have Instagram Glitter. Really, I check out Facebook and Instagram Glitter because it's all the different profiles of all the different sponsors and all the different supporters and all the different talent. And every day we list new talent and new supporters and new sponsors. It's fantastic. But if you need any information around glitter, so if you want to find out who's performing, you want to find out who the sponsors are, if you want to get tickets, if you want to figure out our mission statement, our transparency statement about finances, if you want to find out our past shows, there's lots of videos of our shows so you can see what you will expect, right? So again, big shout out to Ernest. He's done a great job. It was a huge undertaking. But you'll see that not only is this going to be an amazing event, but that there's an entire community supporting us.
And you don't have to throw a stone too far and mention the word glitter and somebody knows about it. Let's face it. Oh my, I
Yeah.
mean, the town is on fire knowing that glitter is
There
coming.
was 200 people at Idol last night and they all stood up and cheered, right?
I think, yeah,
It's everywhere.
it's everywhere. It is going to be the social event of the season. So go get your tickets right now.
Yeah.
The last thing that we have to do, because we're coming to a close of the program, and everybody knows that this is my favorite part of the show. It has always been, it will always be. If you were to take a word of wisdom, a thought of wisdom that you could imbibe in our community about what you've experienced in this endeavor of Glitter 2026 and all of your experiences with that, what might that look like for you?
I just think my message to everybody, and especially to people that are struggling to understand um, the sort of definition of mental health or diversity or inclusion or equity, maybe not react so much, maybe take some time to educate yourself and to learn and to realize that every single person in our community deserves what every other person deserves and gets, right? You know, it's Gay Pride Month, and people often say to me, why do we have gay pride? Why do we have rainbows? And I always say, well, because until every single person on this planet has the same rights as everybody else, this mission is not going to stop. And I'm going to say the same thing about mental health. Until every child in our community gets the mental health they deserve, we all together have to band together and support this and try to do as much awareness and finance or funding to make sure this comes to fruition, right? Everyone deserves to have a great life, an authentic, wonderful life.
Well, with that, I know that my life is so much better because you're in it. And I'm
Oh, right back at you.
so grateful that you came on the program today. Everyone, please go get your tickets right now. All you got to do is go to glitterevents.com. You're going to find it. Just type in your Google bar, glitter 2026 or glitter Nanaimo, and it'll all come up for you straight away. Until we see you there, and I know we will, have a great day, everybody. We'll see you next time on Act 3.